Welcome back to Multifamily Collective. It is that time of the week again, and this is actually an introduction to part two of a two-part series with Kerry, Kirby, and Jimmy Lancaster from 365 Connect. We had an hour and 40-minute podcast interview, and so we decided to chunk it up into two parts, and this is the second part. So as is tradition, grab your favorite cup of coffee. Again, this week it is La Grande Coq Rogue from French Truck Coffee. That is a gift from Kerry Kirby himself. And so also grab a blank sheet of paper or a blank sheet of 10 pieces of paper and your favorite writing utensil, because there is a lot to take note of in this episode. Hope you enjoy. Yeah, that's right. I have like 1,000 things flying around in my head. I'm going to try to remember each one of them. Is this a complement to a revenue management system? It sits on top or aside of a revenue management system in terms of interpreting what might be coming at you, or is this just sits on top of your PMS and extrapolates that data to make these predictions? A lot of people use revenue management systems, so I'm wondering how it plays with that.
We obviously have been around 21 years. We integrate with everything, so we're just pulling whatever if you're got revenue management or if it's just from your PNS. But what we're doing is we're taking it and then we're analyzing it.
Yeah.
So we're using AI as an analyzer, and we're saying, okay, I see here in your, from your PMS data, you have 4 vacancies, and we've been doing this forever. We have the data and everything and the things we do, and we're like, how can we leverage this? And then we also see the on notice units, and I think we kind of got the idea because we had a customer struggling with his property. He just couldn't get ahead of his unit turn, and he had an incredible amount of on notice units all the time. And so it's like that's the piece, because when you talk to him, it's like, oh, well, we only have 3 available, and it's like you got 10 on notice. I mean,
yeah. By the way, there's a 2x4 coming your way.
Yeah, right. That isn't a light at the end of the tunnel. That's the light on the front of the train. So I think it just got us thinking, like, you can have revenue management, you can have all these things, but it can tell you something, but who's going to do something about it? So
yeah,
we have the data and we do something about it. We're like, quick, we got too many 1 bedrooms, get rid of them. And it's in real time. So it's looking right now. So it looks and it says, okay, 10, I got 10 on notices this morning, quick. And it's, get this out. So that's another example of something that maybe somebody would say, well, wow, we've been fighting with social media forever, right? Because Jimmy and I have gotten pretty good at talking to people. What are you doing? Well, my property manager's posting, but Susie, who used to work here, she was doing it, and then I don't know what happened, and and there are times like maybe you question the value in it sometimes, right?
Sure.
I mean, we have all these social media channels for our business, and you got a ton of them, Mike, and then keeping up with it's a challenge, right? There's a point where it's
a lot of work.
I've got other problems at this property. I don't need to do this right now, right? And it just lingers. But what if you had a machine that did it for you, and it's relevant, right? It's like, what's happening now? That to me is valuable. And that's
to that point, I didn't mean to cut you off there. To that point, I remember, do you guys know who Seth Godin is?
Yeah.
He's like, marketing genius guru's written like, I don't know, 10 or 15 books, but he one time, let's say this was 10 years ago, for lack of remembering precisely, I sent him an email and I thought, that's never going to yield anything. And almost immediately he wrote back. But my question was, like, do you think with kind of his definition of marketing. And he said, you have to be, when a consumer, a consumer looks for things every now and then, right?
Right.
Marketing has to be there all the time, right?
Correct.
And to your point about being able to be there all the time, we can't, right? Marketers in corporate America displace this responsibility on our property managers, assistant managers, leasing consultants who are doing other things like selling and doing data entry and all these other things. And so it gets half done. Even in that half of the companies that you sort of analyze, the half that are doing it are probably doing it halfway, right? Because there are other things that have higher
we
priority.
found a lot of great Martha Stewart recipes that they post on Facebook, and yeah. Jimmy and I want to bake a pie during the holidays, but go ahead.
Yeah. I just think that it's one of those things that gets delegated, that doesn't get done well. But to the point that Seth was making, it's like when the consumer is ready to buy, you better be there.
That's right.
You just better be there. Otherwise, whoever's there is going to get the engagement, the interaction, and potentially the sale. So there's kind of in my head, this is an interesting story. At least it's interesting to me. And I had to bite my tongue because of the environment. But I'm sitting in a room, a lot of C-suite people and kind of directors, high-level VPs, et cetera. And we were doing social media marketing through our internal system and sources. And the asset manager wanted to cut it out, cost savings, right? Cut all that out. It's not useful anyway, right? Like, who does any of that and who responds to any of that? And I'm like, number one, you're not the audience, right? We're not marketing to you. We're marketing to people who are actually going to live in our community. And the other thing is, and he had said this to me earlier in an earlier conversation, he doesn't believe in social media. Well, it doesn't matter if you believe in it, right?
That's right.
Young people are there and they're engaged. And to Seth's point, you better be there because that's where people are making buying decisions today. Which leads me to a question. When you're creating ephemeral content, my imagination tells me today with tools like Perplexity and other AI engines, Claude, I don't know who has the visuals, who doesn't, but there's almost this theatrical experience that you can create now that it's not just a static picture that shows up in the ephemeral. It's like an action movie that shows up with music included. That's all. Are you guys doing it to that extent, or is that on the roadmap?
That's definitely on the roadmap. It's all of it has its challenges because you can't just let it go completely wild, right? And I think that's one of the tough things. And a lot of people get worried with AI because they think, well, if you're leveraging AI, it can do things that I really don't want it to do, right? And
fair housing could come into,
it's like the reviewing. The AI committed to redoing the parking lot, and it's like, yeah, we're not doing that, right? And so I think a lot of people do get worried. And so part of what we have to do is really be diligent and intentional to make sure that when we build these things that leverage AI, that we can do it in such a way that we can really constrain it and guide it. It's like you got all this horsepower, but let's make sure it's pointed in the right direction. And so, so for us, that is the type of stuff that is where we're going to move it. But we have to make sure that we build the proper guide rails as we go. We can't just say, okay, flip the switch and let it build that type of thing. We have to, it takes a little bit of involvement to make sure that it stays on the right track. So,
yeah, we're also leveraging the community's assets. It's like we'll tag good images that can be used in this content that, well, here's a great picture of a pool. So look, the assets the community has to start with are our best selling point, right? If they've got great photography, then that's a plus. So we're leveraging some of that, and then we're leveraging AI to assemble it. But we are playing with some, we'll call it moving content, for some of these things, especially TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the topic of TikTok, I hopefully I'm not making this up. I feel like I read recently that there was a court case they lost, and now they're going to have to divest or sell the company. Is that obviously if it goes away, it'll impact.
Yeah,
it just goes away.
It'll be a channel will drop, but
Yeah.
or everybody will drop. But
Yeah.
so they're moving, I think, to the Supreme Court with it. So that what the United States government wants is either sell to a U.S. company, we need the stuff in the U.S., or we're going to ban you from. And their ban is, well, we're gonna ban Google and Apple from putting you in their app stores. So that's kind of how you do it. It's like, well, let's just cut off the water faucet. You can have the faucet. We're going to cut the water off.
But even if TikTok went away, there's going to be a race because somebody's going to go jump in that market. So like
YouTube, right? YouTube becomes the sort of default, at least in the near term.
Maybe Vine's coming back. I don't know.
Oh, there you go. Does anyone own that along with
TikTok is Vine, if you think about it. It's Vine reincarnated. Didn't
X, or when it was Twitter gobbled up Vine and then sort of, I guess, sucked the resource out of it? Or is it, am I making that up? I feel like I read that a long time ago.
I don't remember.
Right. There's been so many things. I mean, we see things in our industry get bought and you're like, where'd that go?
Yeah. Somebody was talking to me about let's call it a depositive alternative it was a collection. In fact, this gentleman did a presentation at the summit last week, and forgive me, I'm embarrassed. I can't remember the name, but I'm like, that sounds a lot like this other company. And I leaned over and asked somebody, and they're like, that is that company. They changed their name. And I'm like, when did they change their name?
I remember that now that you said that, because I was sitting next to you. I was like, oh, is this?
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
It was you and I. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, right. We were having a conversation. I don't remember them changing. But something will pick it up if it goes away. I think it's got too much momentum. I mean, and there's too many suitors, and I think the hybrid is you come. It's got to live in the U.S. servers and stuff like that. So, I think it's got a little ways to go before it goes away, but we've already gone down the road of building the integration. So hopefully it lasts on some forefront. If not, somebody will come in to replace it. You could be talking to them, Mike, right? Like right now.
The engineer. Not me.
Let's go math it out on the whiteboard. We got
it. Yeah. See, this is where Carrie's like, why don't we just make TikTok? No. Let's not make TikTok.
Why don't we not do that?
Carrie's like, no, it'll be simple. No, it won't be simple.
How hard can it be if you post something on the internet? Come on. We've got some things like that.
That's how all these conversations go down, by the way.
Hey, so I think, Kerry, Jimmy disclosed how he uses sort of pride of authorship or the ego as leverage with his engineers, or the people that he works with. So maybe there's a little bit of exercising that to get him to do build TikTok.
Yeah.
Well,
we can shame him into building TikTok.
Yeah. You can do it, or I'm going to take all the glory.
Sounds like it's now our civic duty to build this thing.
So I have a question. I mean, you guys you bootstrapped your company. It's 21 years old, and that's awesome, by the way. So many people take money in the early innings or in the mid innings or whatever, and they want to finance this explosive growth, and they obviously have end games in mind, and you can't fault them for those things. But you guys have done it sort of I'm going to call it a non-traditional way. Maybe it's not, but it's certainly admirable. My imagination tells me that you're thinking about things that we're not thinking about, right? Guys like me or others in the industry, because you have to, right? You have to be nimble enough, agile enough to pivot the company and or bolt on products as the market has started to change. What are you looking at, reading, or exposing yourself to, broadly speaking, that keeps you kind of leading edge, or dare I say bleeding edge in what you're doing?
Well, for me, and Jimmy might do something else. Would probably tries to forget it all when he leaves here. And it's like, well, I want to do something like, I don't know, move, work in the garden because it's, there's no integrations involved.
I like camping.
But I look at what companies out of our industry are doing, and I think if you heard me speak at the conference, I'm like, look at the airline industry and how they've transformed, and we don't see a employee of the airline till we get to the gate, and TSA is a screening company. It just feels like multifamily to me, but it flies.
That's right.
So I look at other industries and I look at how, some of these older companies like airlines have been around a long time, and how are they moving things? And then I have companies that I look at that just go wide, right? Like, if you look at one of my, some people have like favorite football players and I have favorite CEOs. And mine is a guy named Bill McDermott. He runs a company called ServiceNow. And ServiceNow has a very wide platform. And they've brought AI in early, just as assistants, as bots and answering things. So almost like a service platform. But their customer list is unbelievable. It's like Delta Airlines, Coca-Cola, and they're wide. And I look at what they're doing and how they're moving the needle, and how are they serving not only customers for those companies, but the people that work for it. Because at the end of the road, the business we're in is we have a product that's a B2C solution, but we have to sell it B2B. So we're a business. We have to get multifamily operators to adopt it, see the value in it, and come over to our platform. And as we've been around 21 years, we've seen everything. Like when we started, there were no integrations. And then today we have over 60 integrations running in our platform. So it's, you just kind of keep moving with it. And if you don't, you'll become a dinosaur. Our industry moves slower than other industries, but we feel like if we're there with relevant pieces to solve problems, like, so if you look at everything we talk about today, it's something they have to touch, something they have to do. Maybe social media, they say, like your guy, who's doing this? Nobody's doing it. But if we can get you there and it's consistent and it's doing a thing for you and it makes financial sense, we're doing it at a price point that you can't do it at, so you're saving money, then those are the things that we're trying to build for. So we're trying to build to solve problems kind of on both sides of the ledger, for the property operator and the people they're trying to cater to and attract.
One of the things that I think really has helped us kind of keep that competitive edge is, I guess probably, I don't know how long it's been now, but 3 or 4 years ago, I got involved beyond just being on the dev team. Originally, I was just product, right? And I just worked on product and I was helped keep that team going. But at some point, we ended up putting me on the call to help demo products. And when customers had issues, I got on the call, because instead of, letting somebody that's sales or, a sales background or just a customer success person is like, I'm just going to jump on there because I'll get it figured out. I know how it works. And so a lot of our ideas and a lot of things we do come because I get on these calls, and when somebody presents their problems, I just immediately go into, well, how can we fix this? I think most software companies, they miss that because they have people that are not, the innovators aren't talking to the end users, right? Or, you have a customer success team and their job is not to, dream up elaborate solutions. Their job is just to, make their current product work for somebody, right? And so a lot of times what happens with us is I'll get off a call with an existing customer or a potential customer, and then immediately it's like, hey, Kerry, I just had an interesting conversation. this is what's going on. This is their problems. These are the things they're dealing with. And I had some ideas, and then sometimes it's like 3 a.m. I'm like, hey, Kerry, are you awake? And he's like, yeah, I'm awake. And then it's like, I had this,
we've got teams on all
remember
the
that
time.
thing?
Yeah, we'll be chatting back and forth. And
It's like, remember that thing? I just had a crazy idea. I was talking to Mike, and he says, he believes in SEO and the power of blogging. I can automate that using AI. And then we go off and we build these products. And a lot of times I'm up creating a proof of concept. Like, this is how it can work, and then I play around.
I want to give you one example on this. So I did leave that part out. Some of it's like listening to the customer, which Jimmy does well. And you'll notice I carry him everywhere I go now. Like, I'm actually,
That's
Jimmy,
right.
I think you ought to come over to see when we start building TikTok. What do you think?
Yeah. I'm this season.
Look at the time. It says now.
Yeah, right. That thing over your watch now. So we had, there's a lot of regulation in the industry, Mike. So we have a customer and I don't know, for some reason our county passed all this stuff. This is localized, and they have to hand certain documents to someone before they sign a lease. So I'm like, well, how are you doing this? We're emailing it to them. Or we're getting them to come in the office and all this stuff. And it was like weird stuff, like they had to give them a radon gas test, and it couldn't be more than 3 years old on a particular unit. They're spending they got a big portfolio, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars doing radon gas tests all the time. But they have to give them that before they sign a lease. And then they had some units that had lead in them. They have to give up just on certain units. So we're like, wow. So they were using our leasing product. And we said, what if we built a thing? Because we have a document system we built, but we bring it down to the unit. And you can put a document on a unit. So if that unit has a new report, but this unit, the report's still good for a year, you can just put it on the unit you need the report on. And
that's genius.
We'll put it in the front of the process. So we kind of have this little wizard you go through, and it's like, oh, here, you're halfway complete. Oh, here, download these documents and check this thing saying you read them and download them or you can't go next. Here, pay your fees. Here, sign your lease. So we put his documents in the path. He was like, so we told him, what if we built this? He goes, oh my God, I will leave you in my will if you do that. So so we're waiting to get paid one day, but it could be a while.
That's right.
So I don't know. But that's from, like trying to solve a problem and automate something, right? And have some certainty. So if they do get audited for compliance, they're like, oh, we have all these things in a log where they got it and they downloaded it. You know how it is. Nobody's going to read all that, but
oh no,
they said they got, So
we all read the TOS of everything we do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Go read Apple's. It's like 50 feet long. I don't have that long. I don't have that long to live, much less read this terms of use.
That's right.
So they've been through like 12 lawyers have passed away reading, trying to write it. That's how big it is. So
that's right. True.
So I think the core of what we do, Mike, is we try to solve problems, and we do look on the outer edges to see where things are going, where they're coming, and how can we get there? Because look, everybody that's got a tech business, we're all trying to invent an iPhone, and I call it the iPhone moment. What's the iPhone moment? People are waiting around the corner in the rain for when your store opens to buy an iPhone, because I want to be the first guy. So we're all looking for an iPhone moment. I don't know if we'll find one here in this industry, but Jimmy, I think if TikTok goes away, that could be our iPhone moment.
I want to play on that for just a second. So I read about this, and I think one of you actually had a better version of this. So feel free to tell it if it sparks your memory. But I read this article some years ago where there are parts of sub-Saharan Africa that are skipping complete steps of infrastructure. So putting in streets, highways, et cetera, but rather moving to drone delivery, right? So in the past, you had to like whatever try to get to these individuals to service them, whether it be medical care, water, whatever, it doesn't matter. So they leapfrogged, I think is the term. They leapfrogged this idea of trying to build infrastructure to get to these areas, and just rather started this like very sophisticated drone delivery service to get goods and services and so on and so forth. I'm wondering if there's this leapfrogging moment playing off the idea that multifamily moves super slow. Historically, it always has. But there are all these sort of converging things like AI, automate, all of it, right, is happening all at the same time. Is there a leapfrog sort of moment sitting right in front of us that'll allow us to like cut out big pieces of infrastructure you might have to build to get to sort of the future of? If that question makes sense.
I mean, I think I feel like we're heading there based on what's available to us today. I think there's probably some things we don't know, but I think we're to the point, and people are doing it, where you can run a property. I think we always look at hospitality. And if you look at hospitality, like I book online, I can get my key online. I don't ever see a person. I can check. It checks me out automatically before I leave.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that think they need to hang on to some of the processes for some reason. But I think we're starting to prove that automation and AI in some cases can do it better than that. And you can use your people for something more relevant. It's like, who wants to input data? It's like I told somebody the other day, like decades ago, there'd be a job posting, data entry clerk. When's the last time you've seen a job for a data entry clerk or an ad? Doesn't exist. So,
nope.
Jimmy, what do you think we could leapfrog in this industry?
And we're really into marketing. That's one of the big products that we or one of the things that we have products around. And we were talking about it earlier, where AI is really good at marketing. And with some and even some of the stuff, and that, as you see, that's kind of where we're trying to go, is like I like the idea of just how do you just completely automate this thing away? I don't know if that's a leapfrog moment, or it's not like, hey, we found a way to completely circumvent screening people and just instantly I don't know if we're there making those kind of jumps, but I'm what I'm most excited about is how can we take things that are very analytical. I think AI is also really good at doing things that require lots of analysis. And so it's able to, AI is able to crunch lots of data really quick and give you really, give you those really interesting results that would take you a lot of time and effort to come to on your own. And so I think, we're going to find ourselves really getting to the point where you don't have to do those types of things. And then that really, it cuts out what I think, I don't want to say it cuts out a job, but it cuts out spending time on things that most people don't want to do. And it's not a great use of human resources.
And I think that's why people leave jobs, is you give them something they're not interested in doing. Who wants to fill out a Blue Moon lease and 20 addendums? It's crazy. And then, I had a thing in my head, like, and Jimmy triggered it, and we talked about this before. So, screening, like Jimmy said, do we have to screen people? And be like, oh God, yes. But I want you to think about something for a minute. So you travel, we always see you at conferences. So I have Clear. I don't know if you have Clear or not. So Clear is like an ID verification, right? And I also have TSA pre, right?
Yes.
And that's like a screener. So if you went and got TSA pre, it's beyond screening, right? Like they take your fingerprints and your photograph and send it to the FBI.
Yeah.
Right. So you're ultimately screened if you're getting on that plane, right? And so I guess my question is, Could we not leverage? It's the airline industry that I keep using. Can we not leverage those things? Hey, you TSA pre, man, you you know, come on in.
I've had this thing. I'll tell you a super quick story. I was living in San Francisco and working on a property. It's Silicon Valley, right? And this gentleman comes into my office and he has a renter's resume in his hand. This is let's say it was 20 years ago. It was a long time ago. He has a renter's resume. At the time, it was this printed document, right? And he handed it to me. And it was all the places he had ever lived. It was his like he had basically taken an apartment lease and he knew all the information I was going to ask him for. And he just handed me this piece of paper with all the answers on it, right? And I instantly thought at that moment in time that a renting population, to your point, I think speaking to your point, a renter population could go to a site and they could sort of pre-qualify themselves in a renter world with a renter's resume, right? That gives you're doing all the stuff that we do, but you're doing it ahead of time. You've pre-screened yourself through Clear, through TSA, through all the whatever mechanisms we require for our property for you to move in, income quality, all of it, right?
Right.
And you show up and you've already like here's my card,
Yeah.
right? I'm ready to go.
Think about it in the mortgage business. If you go buy a house, you can go pre-qualify for a house. You pre-qualify for a mortgage loan, and then you go out shopping for a house. So it's like, hey, this guy qualifies. He can pay up to this much in rent, and So that might be the next frontier, and I'm sure it'll take a while, but it could be something forward that becomes a thing. I like the
Jimmy.
idea now. Right. Jimmy, we're building a centralized database.
Oh man.
Well, and
my
you
internet is cutting out.
Oh my gosh! Look at the time. Look at my
crazy.
Have you guys?
I'll watch now. I really see what time it is.
I read this startling book. Actually, I listened to it. I was jogging in Chattanooga, Tennessee, down the waterfront, and I was listening to a book about. I want to say it was called not called, but they were talking about clear view technology and basically facial recognition, and the ability to at the time it was like this party trick, right? A guy could walk in, he could take a picture of a young lady or a young man, and he could say like, "Hey, let me tell you about your life," and he would bring up all of their information based on this facial recognition thing that they ended up selling off to like local police stations and national. Anyway, there could be some version of that using clear view technology, which is very controversial. Probably wouldn't want to use it, but you could really validate that somebody is real and who they say they are.
We use it in our ID verification. We use biometric data where they take a selfie and it matches it off the picture of their driver's license. And fraud has been a big subject in our industry. And when we first got into it, and we just got into it, we don't want to go compete, sell it as a one-off thing. Is we built it in the front of an application process. So if you weren't, if your ID didn't check out, you couldn't go past go and go fill out an application because people were saying, well, we're getting these fraudulent applications. So we said, let's put it in the front of the process. So we built it in there, and our battleground where we have a client that just lets us go to town over there and test whatever. Hey, we got this thing. You're going to be the first. Love it. We tweak it. But we ended up building a loss prevention calculator. And what it was is he would put in, okay, it takes me, 2 months or whatever it is to evict somebody. And it takes me another month to get this unit back. And, so it's like 4 months if I got to evict somebody. Okay. And then and he put his legal costs. So we built this calculator with him. And he's got a a decent amount of he's north of 10,000 plus unit range. So anyway, we looked at it 12 months later, $1 million in loss prevention just on IDs. That's how many fake IDs.
Oh.
And you know what's crazy? We launched that feature And in the first like 2 days, we saw people getting, declined. And when we looked into it, a lot of times it was legitimate IDs, like real people had real IDs. They were just using somebody else's. And like we'd see situations and it's like, this has to be like this guy's cousin or his brother or like some relative. And so my thing is like, it's the relative with the good credit score or something,
Yeah.
right? Like,
And that's where the facial recognition came in, because they couldn't fake their phone structure to be what's on the picture. So it'd be like, it looks like the same person or whatever. And it would be like a brother, a cousin or whatever. And so if you dig into it, because, I have curiosities, and I know you do, Mike, and it's like most fraud has happened to somebody from somebody, because they know where these parts are. I know how to get mom's bank account number or her login or my
sometimes it's
where my
denying
cousin
people.
keeps his ID in his car, and I'll just lift it out there next time I'm in it. That's how
I saw a situation. It was a picture of a woman in the driver's license, and it's a bald guy taking the picture. It's like you're definitely not the same person.
Yeah, we saw some really funny things. It was like our new toy when we first got it. We're looking at it, and it's like a guy with a hoodie on, and it's like he's a hacker or something, and he's got an ID that's like not even in the same zip code as he is, and it's like, wow, like facial wise, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
So appreciate the effort, but no.
Yeah. It's very, very interesting. So anyway, we still have, we have this going, but it was fun when it first started because of the data we were playing with.
Yeah.
But facial recognition saves the day 90% of the time, because it is a real ID. It's just not the same person.
Yeah, that's right. I've seen that. We're playing around in the BTR space, and so I've shopped a lot of kind of self-serve BTR communities and facial recognition as it relates to the driver's license, but also in that world, proximity, right? Are you really standing by the front door that you're asking to get into? And so that's pretty cool. Or you could argue that it's not cool, but I think it's pretty cool if you're on an operator's side, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's facial recognition, but it's also proximity verification, if that's the way to say that.
Yeah. And we do like when we do an app, we pull their IP address they're sitting at and we stamp it on the application. So we know right where you are when you filled it out. Now you could be somewhere else, but if you're like, I don't know, some country, Nigeria, you're a Nigerian prince, like, well, that doesn't add up, So,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Well, guys, we're coming up. Well, we've passed an hour and a half. We did joke that we were going to do like a Joe Rogan podcast for like
there. We should
4 to 6 hours.
We should begin with the Joe and just get his thoughts.
Do either one of you know Joe?
Not personally.
Yeah. But I got to tell you, I do feel like there are lots of other questions. I know prior to hitting the record button, we talked about, AI or actually like voice user interface for prompting and things of that nature. Do we feel like we want to say that for a separate episode, or do we want to dive into like kind of what the user interface is going to be as it relates to property management in the future?
I think it's probably a bigger subject, but I'll leave you with this. I do think it's voice driven. I think it's just easier. I think things just work from apps and speaking them. And I think voice has gotten better and better and better. So I definitely think a lot of things are going to work off of voice command.
Jimmy, from your perspective, what do you think?
I think this conversation's voice driven and because it works better, right? So it's just natural. I think it's just the way we work as humans, and it's our natural. It's like our default, right? So I think anything that we can do to make things more natural for us, it's going to win. And that's just like a prime example.
To that point, I thought this was funny to me, but I have a weird sense of humor. To sort of to this point, I think it was yesterday or this morning, I was prompting ChatGPT with my voice. And because like back in the day, I was used to saying, like, if I was using voice dictation, I would say, Jimmy is going to the store, period. So it would put the period in. Well, when I did that today in ChatGPT, I said, Jimmy is going to the store, period. And ChatGPT writes back, is he picking up milk? Question mark. It's spelled out question mark, right? And they put the question mark after.
Yes. Yeah.
So anyway, I just thought that was like a funny thing that in the past year, even voice prompting is sort of shifting to be more natural. You don't have to say period anymore. It just knows that a period should go there instead of like saying.
Yeah. And I think, just to round it out, I think also the future of search with AI search now, it's just, I think it's all voice driven. And I think that's definitely the frontier. Obviously, Alexa opened that door for all of us. I mean, I feel like I use Alexa every day. I've used timers if I'm grilling something, and just like, and just asking it things, it just gives you information. So I think it's natural, and I think as Jimmy said, we want to give engineers those really hard things to build. Like, I don't care how they say it, you got to figure it out and make it come out just right. So, I want it to be easy for that user, and it gets harder for the engineers. And
my favorite.
Yeah. So I think as technology moves, it'll just keep getting better and better.
Well, before we end, Jimmy, I think we've collectively, you, me, and Kerry have given you lots of ideas today. You, some yourself, and the rest of us. So, but I want to end cap by just giving the two of you sort of an opportunity for, where can people find you online? Where can people learn more about 365 Connect? And if they wanted to reach out and ask questions, they can do so.
Yeah.
So, Kerry, maybe we start with you, and then Jimmy, end cap with you.
Yeah. So obviously we have a website, 365connect.com, and it's a big site. So it's got all of our different products we offer in the space and services and demo. Every page I think of a product will be like, if you want a demo. So we love for people to reach out, and we love just having conversations. If somebody's got an idea, you don't have to call us to, buy something from us. You can call us and say, hey, I got this crazy idea. I just want to run my whole property on voice, and who knows, we might be the guys to build that. So you never know.
I love that. Jimmy?
Yeah. And, obviously if you go through our website, you can always contact me. You can also just email me directly, jimmy@365connect.com. I'm glad to talk anytime, customer or not. I'm glad to hop on a call and discuss things. Integrations, that's always a sore subject in our industry. And I've had the pleasure of touching the majority of integrations and that are in multifamily. So I know a lot about those. Anybody that wants to do, contact us there. And then also, Kerry and I have a podcast, and we talk on the multifamilytechgurus.com. So feel free to go over there if you want to hear us complain about integrations as well as other stuff.
It's a candid discussion we do every week. So yeah, you can find us there. And of course, we're both on LinkedIn, and we're all over the internet. You'll see I always use a W because there seems to be too many people with my name, including, so Kerry W. Kirby. I actually have kerrywkirby.com, which is my personal site. And you can read about all the things I do. And my, I have a charitable foundation that I also run on the side. So into a lot of give back to the community kind of initiatives. So, we welcome everyone and anyone to connect with us, and let's hook up and have a conversation. That's how we grow and learn.
Definitely. Kerry, Jimmy, I've been deeply impressed, even dating back to maybe pre-Jimmy days, when Kerry was doing I'm going to call it a podcast, although I think it was done over the telephone with Ernest or Anate, I believe is how you pronounce his last name, the Power Hour that came out every Wednesday.
Yeah.
This is like 25 years ago.
Ernest and I are going into year 18.
18.
18 years. But we were doing podcasts before they were podcasts. I think we predate
That's right.
Spotify. So we actually called them webcasts, and we just kind of adopted the name because we didn't want to change the brand. But it's called the Multifamily Biz Power Hour webcast series. And we have touched millions of people through that over all the years. And we have won 4 global podcasting awards, by the way, Ernest and I.
That is, I've always been, the thing that I've been, not just the longevity, but the thing I've been deeply impressed by is that there is a lot of research that goes into each one of those episodes. You don't just show up and speak off the cuff, or just, making it up as you go along. There's a lot of research that goes into those episodes, and I always appreciated that.
Those are a little different. We come out from a more of an educational angle, and I'm always talking technology. So I do a lot of research. So it's like, do you know AI first started in 1957? People are like, what? And I go through the history of AI, and then we kind of roll it back into multifamily. And my favorite time of year is in January. I kick off the year with my tech predictions for the new year.
I'll be looking forward to that episode.
Stay tuned, and then we got to see how many I get right, huh?
Which means I'll have to build them, so he's right.
But even fast forward to the Jimmy days of 365 Connect, I've just always been impressed, Jimmy, when you stand on stage and you're articulating the vision of 365 Connect last year, this year. I think they're the 2 times that I've seen you speak. Is just highly impressive, and so I just admire both of you, what you're doing for the industry, but also as just good human beings. And I appreciate you investing a little bit of time with me today.
No, thank you, Mike. We really appreciate you saying that. So thank you so much. And thank you for having us on today. We know you're the king of the podcast world now. We're just your followers. So we appreciate being on here with you.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very kind. All right. And for everyone else, we'll see you next time.
All right.